The most dangerous lie men are taught about attraction is that caring more will secure love, that effort creates safety, that emotional availability guarantees desire. On the surface, this sounds mature, responsible, even noble. But psychologically, it produces the opposite effect. The more a man tries to lock attraction in place, the faster it dissolves. Not because women are cruel or irrational, but because desire does not obey moral logic. It obeys unconscious signals. Most men sense this contradiction but cannot name it. They feel that the moment they become emotionally invested, explain their intentions, or try to prove their value, something shifts. Respect softens. Tension disappears, attraction weakens, and confusion sets in. The man asks himself what he did wrong, when in reality he did exactly what his conditioning told him was right. This video is not about blaming women, and it is not about playing emotional games. It is about understanding a psychological law that operates beneath words and conscious intent. Attraction is not negotiated, it is not persuaded, it is detected. The nervous system reads signals long before logic gets involved, and one signal matters more than all others: need. When a man needs to be chosen, his behavior becomes reactive, his attention moves outward. His sense of self becomes dependent on response. Even if his words are calm, his inner state leaks through. Humans are extremely sensitive to this, especially in intimate dynamics. The paradox is brutal, but simple. The man who tries to secure desire communicates insecurity. The man who does not need it communicates strength. What you are about to hear may challenge how you define care, effort, and masculinity. But if you have ever felt your value drop the more you invested, this is the missing framework you were never taught, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Desire does not respond to intention, it responds to identity. Attraction is not a reward for good behavior, it is a reaction to presence, to identity, to the internal structure of a man. Most men believe desire responds to what they do, how much they give, how consistently they show up. But the unconscious does not measure effort, it measures gravity. A man can say all the right things and still feel light, unstable, easy to move. Another man can say very little and feel grounded, solid, immovable. Women do not analyze this consciously. They feel it. They sense whether a man has a center, whether his life has weight, whether his sense of self exists independently of their approval. This is why trying harder often backfires. When your actions are driven by the hope of being desired, your identity collapses into intention. You stop being a presence and become a strategy, and strategies are always felt as provisional, temporary, replaceable. A man with a strong identity does not move toward desire. Desire moves toward him, not because he is indifferent, but because his life is already oriented toward something larger than validation. His attention is not chasing approval. It is anchored in purpose, standards, and self-respect. This creates psychological mass, and mass bends attraction toward it. This is the difference between being and performing. Performing is exhausting and transparent. Being is silent and undeniable. When a man stops asking how he is perceived and starts living from who he is, the entire dynamic changes. And that shift sets the stage for something deeper, something most men never realize. The subtle fear triggered by the man who does not need, the unconscious fear of the man who does not need. Desire is not built only on comfort, it is built on tension, and tension is born from uncertainty. The man who does not need approval, reassurance, or emotional regulation from a woman introduces a specific psychological effect that is rarely discussed. He creates unconscious unease, not danger, not insecurity, but unpredictability. And the unconscious is magnetized by what it cannot fully control. When a man is emotionally dependent, his reactions become predictable. His mood rises and falls with attention. His behavior adjusts to avoid loss. This gives the other person power, but it also removes fascination. There is nothing to discover, nothing to earn, nothing at stake. The nervous system relaxes, and desire fades with it. The man who does not need creates a different internal response. His emotional state is self-contained. His approval is not automatic. His presence feels stable, but his investment is selective. This triggers a subtle psychological alert. The unconscious begins asking questions. Why is he calm without reassurance? Why does he not seek validation? Why does he not react the way others do? This is where attraction and fear intersect. Not fear of harm, but fear of insignificance. The possibility of not being central. The man who does not need cannot be easily managed, predicted, or emotionally controlled. And what cannot be controlled demands attention. This dynamic is not about manipulation, it is about autonomy. When a man regulates his own emotions, he removes a silent contract most people expect in relationships. The contract that says, I give you attention and you give me stability. He already has stability, so his attention feels earned, not guaranteed. This is why neediness repels at a deep level. It asks the other person to carry emotional weight that does not belong to them. The man who does not need carries his own weight, and that independence produces both attraction and anxiety. The desire to be close and the fear of losing ground. And this tension leads directly to the next distinction most men fail to understand. Emotional availability versus emotional access. Most men are taught that emotional maturity means constant openness, always available, always responsive, always ready to reassure. But psychological depth does not come from unlimited access. It comes from containment, from knowing when to open and when to remain grounded in yourself. Being emotionally healthy means you can feel, process, and express emotions without being overwhelmed by them. Being emotionally accessible at all times means anyone can enter your inner world whenever they want. These are not the same thing. One creates stability, the other dissolves polarity. When a man offers unlimited emotional access, he removes friction from the dynamic. There is no resistance, no anticipation, no emotional pacing. Everything is immediate. Needs are met instantly. Reactions are predictable. This may feel safe, but safety alone does not generate desire. Desire requires space. Space allows imagination. Space allows value to form. Controlled access is not withdrawal. It is self-respect. It is the ability to say, I am present, but I am not porous. My emotional world is not a public space. This creates depth. When access is not guaranteed, presence becomes meaningful. Attention gains weight. Men often fear that reducing access will make them seem distant or uncaring. In reality, it signals that their inner life is organized, not chaotic, that their emotions are governed, not outsourced. This is deeply attractive because it removes emotional burden from the relationship. No one is asked to regulate you. Unlimited access collapses tension into familiarity. Familiarity without polarity turns desire into routine. Controlled access preserves mystery without games. It allows connection to deepen without dissolving structure. This distinction matters because many men confuse availability with honesty. They believe explaining everything builds trust, but what they do not see is how overexposure drains intrigue, and that leads to the next silent killer of attraction, the male impulse to over-clarify. Why over-clarity kills attraction? Most men believe that clarity is always virtuous, that explaining intentions, emotions, and motives prevents misunderstandings and builds connection. In rational contexts, this is true. In attraction dynamics, it is often destructive. The unconscious does not bond through explanations. It bonds through experience, contrast, and emotional tension. When a man feels the urge to explain himself, it is usually driven by anxiety. Anxiety about being misread, anxiety about losing ground, anxiety about not being chosen. So he clarifies, reassures, justifies, and in doing so, he exposes his internal need for control over perception. This instantly lowers polarity. Over-clarity removes ambiguity. Ambiguity is not confusion, it is psychological space. It allows curiosity to exist. It allows the other person to project, wonder, and engage emotionally. When everything is explained, nothing is left to discover. The dynamic becomes informational instead of experiential. Silence, when intentional, is not avoidance. It is containment. A man who can remain silent without discomfort signals that he trusts his presence more than his words. He does not rush to manage emotions. He does not negotiate attraction. This restraint is perceived as strength because it shows self-governance. There is a strategic aspect here. Power rarely explains itself. It reveals selectively. When a man over-explains, he unconsciously asks for approval. He wants his intentions validated. This reverses the frame. Instead of being evaluated, he places himself on trial. This does not mean being vague or dishonest. It means speaking when speech adds value, not when silence feels uncomfortable. The man who speaks less but stands firm communicates certainty. Certainty creates safety. Safety combined with mystery sustains desire. Men who master this stop leaking energy through words. Their presence becomes heavier, their reactions slower, their decisions clearer. And this leads to a deeper layer that women respond to instinctively, the internal hierarchy that defines how a man ranks himself in his own life. The internal hierarchy. Women respond to. Every man lives inside a hierarchy, whether he realizes it or not. The question is not if it exists, but what sits at the top. For most men, women, attention and approval quietly occupy that position, and the unconscious detects this immediately. Attraction does not respond to a man's words about his values. It responds to what his behavior obeys. Women are not primarily attracted to social status, money, or confidence in isolation. They respond to internal status, to how a man positions himself in relation to his own life. A man who places his purpose, his standards, and his self-respect above the need to be liked radiates a different kind of authority. His choices are not negotiated. They are filtered through a code. When a woman senses that she is not the center of a man's psychological universe, something shifts, not because she feels unimportant, but because she feels that his life has direction without her. This creates attraction because it eliminates the fear of responsibility for his identity. She is not holding him up. He is standing on his own. Men who care too much about approval invert this hierarchy. They place the reaction of others above their own judgment. This makes them flexible, adaptable, and pleasing, but it also makes them light, easy to move, easy to displace. Respect cannot grow in that structure. A man with a strong internal hierarchy cares less not because he is numb, but because his life already demands his loyalty. His attention is a resource, not a begging tool. And when a woman feels that access to him must be earned through alignment, not emotional leverage, desire changes form. This sets the stage for the most important shift of all. The moment a man stops trying to be chosen and starts choosing. The moment a man stops trying to be chosen. There is a precise psychological moment when the entire dynamic shifts. It happens when a man stops orienting his behavior around being desired and reorients it around his own standards. This is not an attitude change, it is a structural change. His attention moves from outcome to direction, and that movement is felt immediately. When a man seeks to be chosen, he is operating from scarcity. Every interaction carries an unstated question. Am I doing enough? Am I losing ground? Should I adjust? This invites negotiation of his boundaries, his time, his emotions, his values become flexible currency. The unconscious reads this as low internal authority. The moment he stops trying, he reclaims selection. He does not withdraw. He evaluates. He observes whether a woman fits into his life rather than whether he fits into hers. This flips the frame without a single word being said. His calm is no longer a strategy. It is a consequence of direction. This shift is unsettling because it removes the assumption of guaranteed attention. His interest is no longer unconditional. It is aligned, and alignment creates respect. Respect creates attraction that does not need to be maintained through effort. Men fear this shift because they think it means losing connection. In reality, it filters connection. Only those who add to his life remain, and that selectivity is what gives his presence weight. But here is the danger. Many men misinterpret this position and swing too far. They confuse detachment with power, and that confusion destroys everything they just built. The dangerous misinterpretation. Coldness is not power. Many men reach this point and make a fatal error. They confuse emotional self-sufficiency with emotional shutdown. They believe that being unreactive means being unavailable, that strength means distance, that power means withholding humanity. This is not power. This is a defense mechanism disguised as control. Coldness is not authority. Coldness is often fear that learned to hide. When a man shuts down emotionally, he does not become stronger, he becomes rigid. Rigidity is fragile, it breaks under pressure. True power is flexible because it is rooted in stability, not avoidance. Emotional self-sufficiency means you can feel without being controlled by what you feel. It means you can care without clinging. It means you can invest without losing your center. The man who has this does not need to withdraw to feel safe. He is safe within himself. Women sense this difference immediately. Emotional absence feels like a wall. Emotional self-mastery feels like a foundation. One creates distance. The other creates depth. Power is not the removal of emotion. Power is the ability to contain it without leaking need. Men who choose coldness think they are protecting themselves. In reality, they are avoiding growth. They trade vulnerability for control and lose both respect and connection in the process. The man who cares less does not care less because he is numb. He cares less because his identity is not at risk. And when a man reaches this balance, something important happens on the other side of the dynamic, because the experience of this shift is not just internal. It is felt clearly by women. How women experience this shift internally. When a man reaches this state, the experience on the other side of the dynamic changes in a way that is hard to articulate but easy to feel. Women do not experience it as a tactic. They experience it as a shift in gravity. His presence feels calmer, but also heavier, less demanding, but more significant. Confusion is often the first response. Not confusion about intent, but about control. The usual levers no longer work. Attention is not guaranteed. Emotional reactions are no longer predictable. This does not create fear of him. It creates uncertainty about position, and position is central to desire. Attraction deepens because the man is no longer trying to manage emotions. He is not seeking reassurance. He is not signaling dependence. His interest, when given, feels real because it is not required. This makes his approval meaningful without him ever asking for validation in return. Curiosity emerges next. Women begin to pay closer attention to small signals, tone, timing, presence, because these things now carry information. His silence is not empty. His words are not overloaded. Everything feels intentional. Respect grows quietly. Not the loud respect of dominance, but the deep respect that comes from sensing a man who is not trying to extract something. He is not needing to be centered. He is centered. And that creates a strong pull without pressure. This is why the man who cares less is often described as different, without a clear explanation why. The difference is not behavioral. It is structural. And when men fail to understand this, they pay a high price for continuing to operate from need, the cost of continuing to care too much. Most men never realize the price they pay for overinvestment because it is not paid all at once. It is paid slowly, quietly, through erosion. The more a man cares from a place of need, the more he trains others to value him less, not out of malice, but out of psychological law. When a man cares too much, he sacrifices self-respect first. He tolerates disrespect he would never accept in other areas of his life. He justifies behavior that crosses his boundaries. Each time he does this, he signals that his standards are negotiable, and what is negotiable loses weight. Attraction fades next, not suddenly but gradually. Desire cannot survive in a dynamic where one person is always reaching and the other is always being reached for. The tension that once existed collapses into familiarity, and familiarity without polarity becomes obligation. Negotiation power disappears along with it. The man who cares too much bargains with his time, his emotions, and his values to maintain connection. He becomes afraid to withdraw investment, even when it is no longer reciprocated. This fear locks him into dynamics that drain him. Long-term desire is the final casualty. Even if the relationship continues, it does so without edge, without depth, without respect. Many men normalize this state and call it maturity. In reality, it is a quiet form of self-abandonment. This is not a warning against caring. It is a warning against caring without structure, without identity, without a center. And to understand how to care without losing yourself, a man needs a new internal operating system. The new operating system for the modern man. What fails most men is not intelligence or intention. It is the operating system they live by. An operating system built around reaction, validation, and emotional dependence will always produce the same outcome, no matter how good the man is. To change results, the internal structure must change first. This new operating system starts with purpose over attention. A man's life must be organized around direction, not response. When his days, decisions, and energy serve something he respects, attraction becomes a byproduct, not a goal. He no longer seeks to be seen. He is busy becoming. Emotional discipline comes next, not suppression, but governance. He feels fully without acting impulsively. He cares without collapsing into need. His emotions inform him, but they do not command him. This is where real confidence is built, quietly and internally. Selective investment follows naturally. His time, attention, and affection are no longer automatic. They are responses to alignment. He does not punish. He does not chase. He simply allocates energy where it makes sense. This creates respect without demands. Identity sits at the core of all of this. A man who knows who he is does not need to prove it. A man who respects himself does not beg for confirmation. He cares less about outcomes because his foundation is internal. This is not a technique. It is a return to center. And when a man lives from this place, the final realization becomes inevitable. The man who cares less is not empty, he is full. The man who cares less is not empty, he is full. The greatest misunderstanding about this entire idea is the word less. The man who cares less is not indifferent. He is not avoidant, he is not numb. He cares less because his life is already occupied by meaning, direction, and self-respect. There is no void inside him asking to be filled by attention. When a man is empty, he clings, he over-explains, he overgives, he over-invests, not because he loves too much, but because he has too little of himself. His care is a request, his presence is a negotiation, and the unconscious always recognizes this. The man who cares less cares from abundance. His interest is a choice, not a plea. His attachment is grounded, not anxious. He does not need to secure desire because his identity is not on the line. He is not trying to be held together by someone else. This is why desire moves toward him, not because he withholds, but because he is whole. What is whole does not chase completion. What is full does not beg to be filled. And this is the hard truth most men never hear. The moment you stop needing to be chosen is the moment you become chosen, not by everyone, but by those who can meet you at your level.